"The next Lil Peep, this guy's gonna blow up," are some of the most frequent comments made online about Caspr, an artist known for his pop-punk sound and catchy melodies. From being signed by Atlantic in 2018 to recently becoming independent, Caspr has made quite the journey. But who is he? Liam Ahern, or Caspr, was born on December 14, 1998 in Jersey City. He said it sucked, but he moved and eventually grew up in Nyack, a suburb of New York City. As a kid, his hobbies included longboarding and, of course, music. His father was a musician, and through him, he'd be a part of bands as a kid, but wasn't sure if that's what he wanted to pursue. He'd always be playing instruments for fun, but when 8th grade rolled around, he started recording himself, which is where everything really started. He used to hang out in an older guy's house, and after the other adults would tell him his music was genuinely good, he started taking music more seriously. At the time, he was just copying other artists, figuring out what he liked and what worked for him to create his own unique style. There was even a time when he was making drill music like Chief Keef. As a kid, his musical influences were pretty wide-ranging. In elementary school, he was really into alternative music, stating he even wore eyeliner. Bands such as Blink-182, The Smiths, and The Cure especially were his favorite. In high school, he started listening to rap and started to love rappers like Young Thug just as much as the bands he listened to as a kid. To him, they both are really good at melodies and creating emotional music. But in his teens, his interests were sporadic. He was playing instruments, got really into skateboarding, and even thought he was going to be a professional paintball player. Later on, he even modeled for a point in time, appearing in campaigns for Fila and streetwear brands like Psych World. He even quit music for a period because he believed he was going to be a pro skater, but realized he sucked at skating, so he went back to music and would stick with it for good. Journey in music. Caspr's first stage name was Liam ATM, then it was Lil Rari, then it was PPG Rari. But too many kids had the name Rari, and because kids would call him Caspr because of how pale he was, he chose to go by PPG Caspr. After high school, Caspr would continue to release music throughout 2017. In 2018, after being in need of money and a shot at getting a bigger push behind his music, Caspr signed to Atlantic Records under a very successful producer named Andrew Watt. The original post is still up on the producer's Instagram, and Andrew Watt calls him the next Robert Smith. But signing to Atlantic would turn out to be a huge mistake for Caspr. None of his music was really promoted, a lot of his music was taken down from streaming services, and the new music he was dropping wasn't permitted by his label to be released on streaming platforms, dwarfing his growth, and his relationship with the producer who signed him soured quickly. But he would still release music on SoundCloud. I would slowly begin to get a buzz. Here's him performing for Lyrical Lemonade at their 2019 festival. Around the time Caspr moved to New York City in 2019, he met a group of musicians who would form the group Surf Gang, which included several other artists and producers such as Pasta Flocko, Baby Sosa, and Polo Perks. He liked the physical aspect of the group, the fact that they all hung out with each other all the time and were in person, unlike most collectives on SoundCloud that hung out on Discord. Unfortunately, in 2021, he left the group after one of the members got involved with his ex-girlfriend behind his back, and none of the members that knew told him. He went on live explaining the situation, and you could tell he was pretty emotional. He put on pretty hard for Surf Gang and was their most popular member. The fans didn't believe he deserved that type of treatment.
My best friend get with a girl that I've known for 6 years and dated for a year and a half. Twice. Didn't say to me. Didn't say nothing to me. Just let me look like a dumbass the whole time.
And without the group, he was on his own. But 2021 wasn't all bad for Caspr. Earlier in the year, Travis Barker DM'd him on Instagram telling him he heard one of his songs and really liked it. And as I mentioned earlier, Caspr was a fan of Blink-182, the band Travis Barker is famously known for being a part of. So after chopping it up for a bit, they got into the studio. Shortly after, Caspr signed under DTA Records, Travis Barker's label, and we would finally start to see some releases through Atlantic Records on all streaming platforms. Caspr's discography goes all the way back to when he was a kid, dropping tapes with his friends. Some of it is still available on Bandcamp. In 2014, he dropped a tape called White Boys in 40s Part 1. His Bandcamp description read, "That motherfucker's stealing your white woman since 1998. I don't know, kinda funny. But he only started taking music seriously around 2016, and that's where his first real projects come from. In 2016, he dropped Sparring Session, and in 2017, he dropped You Wouldn't Believe Me Part 1, and The After Party. Unlike most artists' early work, these three albums were pretty good because Caspr had been making music for quite a while. It ranges from your typical cloud rap on songs like Hypebeast and Bart Simpson, talking about stuff like lean, to more traditional 2010s rap such as Project 5 Freestyle. The best songs on these projects to me are Bad Man, where he sings on a dancehall beat, and Project 5 Freestyle, where he raps on a piano rap type beat. In 2017, Caspr's music was basic, and you probably could find plenty of other artists with the exact same sound, but it's still good music, and he dropped quite frequently. Wait a Minute, his oldest music video, and released when he was still named Lil Rari. He raps on a dark beat in his old style, Respect My Body. The first song still on Caspr's SoundCloud, posted on June 26, 2017. He's just asking to not be used and for some some respect, and it's one of my favorite songs by him. Casualty. Caspr and Rip Eternal talk about their issues. These two have a lot of old songs and were very close at one point, but Caspr and Rip Eternal fell out over a situation with Surf Gang and never reconciled. These songs were cool, but if he wanted to stand out, he'd have to be more unique, and that's exactly what he would start to do in the following year. In 2018, the sound and content of Caspr's music took a dark turn. He'd slowly start to work with more underground producers and form his own unique sound. The End. Probably his darkest song, Caspr raps with his typical themes, like blood and betrayal, and feeling like he's not okay. He sang with a much deeper voice as well. Rock Out is about his drugged out lifestyle, riding around while eating cane sugar, and what he experiences as a consequence of it. The video is directed by Lone Wolf. You Wouldn't Believe Me Part 2, a follow-up to You Wouldn't Believe Me Part 1. His first and only real album, to be honest, and it's about what sounds like a heartbreak. On Love Me Again, he sings about tension and confusion in a relationship. The album also contains more melodic songs like Was in Love and Can't Stop. In Yay, the largest song, he's flexing but admits he still can't get over his ex. The importance of this album lies in the fact that he never released a cohesive project like this after it, and it remains all that we ever got from him. 2019. In 2019, Caspr started to go up in the underground, getting a lot of attention on SoundCloud. He was finally starting to see the fruits of his labor. Sick in the Head. Caspr and Steven Moses sing about heartbreak and how they use their addictions to cope. The music video sits at 500,000 views and showcased their potential. Steven Moses was already pretty big, so it gave Caspr a lot of exposure as well. However, they never dropped another song together. Hey, I'm Back. This is actually a remake of his older song Bad Man, but he's singing completely differently this time and on a different beat as well. Paris Hilton. Produced by Surf Gang, it's Caspr's largest independent release and his most popular song. Paris Hilton is him recalling a toxic relationship filled with lies on both sides. Girls just want to have fun. Caspr featuring Lil TJ. This collab came out of nowhere, but Caspr holds his own on the song. What Would Jesus Do? In What Would Jesus Do, he raps about his suffering, making a reference to Christianity, rapping bleeding from my palms like a Christian, likely about his depression, drug use, or both. It's actually the first song of his I heard. 2020. In 2020, the year of the pandemic, he got even more consistent with music. I swear he probably dropped around 20 music videos or even more from 2020 to 2021. 10 times the amount of songs, and he didn't really miss. 24 Hours. A collab between two ex-Surf Gang members, Caspr and Baby Sosa, and they sing like angels on the song, but today it kind of serves as a reminder of what the group could have been. Nightmare. In Nightmare with High C, Caspr sings about his life, which he thinks is meaningless, and also talks about his inability to stop intrusive thoughts from popping into his brain. Think About It. A feature on Oaf1's breakout song, Think About It, and a quote-unquote hyperpop song. With almost 10 million streams on Spotify, it's Oaf1's largest song. Back in 2020, I remember the song's sound was crazy, and the song took off because hyperpop, or whatever you want to call it, was blowing up at the time. Don't Wanna Dance. Another one of his largest songs, featuring Pasta Flocko, a fellow member of Surf Gang. Caspr raps about the usual, drugs and flexing, explaining he'd rather be off drugs than be social, as well as speaking about his humble beginnings. I Can't Help Myself, a short EP he released with much better production than his previous project. In It's Okay, he raps about trauma and money, not really being able to solve his problems. Not much changed in 2021, he just picked up where he left off in 2020. I'm Trying. Hyperpop Caspr sings about a relationship he doesn't want to be in, and about partying. Freestyle the MP3. Caspr freestyles about the instability of his mental and physical state on a beat he made. Sampling Kiara. Coke Nose, a song about the destructive nature of his drug use, and the first song he released with Travis Barker, and the first song also released through Atlantic that would hit all streaming platforms, something his fans had been waiting for. The song is what you'd expect from a mainstream pop punk song. Duct Tape Lips. Caspr sings about his first kiss, how he would do anything for her while being aware of his struggle. It's produced by Omar Apollo. But despite Caspr's frequent drops, and finally some push by his labels, his fans weren't satisfied. He had been delaying his album for over a year, and it felt like he was never gonna actually drop. On March 4th of 2022, that would change. He dropped his first album, Untitled Volume 1. Except to many fans' dismay, it wasn't an album. It was his previous singles released through Atlantic packaged as an album, with the addition of 2 new songs produced by Travis Barker, Hate Me and Want Me Dead. The songs were good, but like this user points out, were bona fide mainstream pop punk, and not like his older music that was still just rock influenced. Some fans even called him an industry plant, to which he did not like at all, stating he still made rap. Since then, he's been on a bit of a hiatus, dropping a couple tracks here and there, and in his vocals, he's been using a baby voice, which is pretty different what his fans are used to. Even more recently, within the past year, 2 recent songs he dropped on his SoundCloud with his newest sound, a high-pitched voice. For You Part 2 is a love song, and in I've Been, he raps in a baby voice. He was also part of Lil Tracy's group VBC or Vampboy Click, alongside Drippin' So Pretty, High C, and Bloody Clip, but he left the group shortly after it was created. Understanding. Stylistically, Caspr has done a 180 from his previous work. His latest work consists consists of him using a higher pitch of his voice, while in his older music, his voice is much deeper, and the music he was making was a lot darker. The appeal of Caspr was largely his versatility, aesthetic, and musical quality. From hyperpop to pop punk to emo rap, he can do it all. For example, in this thread, he's being praised for being able to pull off the emo rap genre without being corny or trying too hard, and even garnering Lil Peep comparisons, which only increased after he got a face tat. However, his career isn't without criticism. In the same thread, he's being criticized for dropping cookie cutter pop punk while neglecting the fan base he's built on SoundCloud. The fan went on to say that the changes the record label encouraged are not in his best interest, to which I agree, except it wasn't in his control. Recently, Caspr has taken a break from music for the most part, other than a couple of recent singles he dropped, and is newly independent. So maybe he'll finally start dropping the type of music bands like this guy wants on all streaming platforms. Thanks for watching. I go by Rashad Fashir. I make videos on music and other stuff I'm interested in. I have a commentary channel too. You can also join my Discord to talk to like-minded people, and have a nice day. Bye.